last time on Oz Hour?
Okay, so last time on Oz Hour, it started off hot. They had to do these 11 guesses, and the first person to go in was Ozma. And when she went in, she was like, what the fuck? There's so many goddamn rooms. How am I going to do this? She doesn't. And then everyone else goes in, and they don't do it either. And it's fucked up. And it's really sad because we're losing everyone that we love and know. And then fucking Belina somehow ends up under the king's throne and hears all the little tea and secrets of who's who and what's what. And so then she goes in there and is like, you're safe, and you're safe. And then they all go out, and then they end up leaving. And then she's oh my God, I'm panicking. She ends up leaving, and then they are met with the army of the Gnome King, and he's pissed. And that's it. I'm done.
Hi there, and welcome to Oz Hour, the only place where you can hear everything you never knew about the wonderful and strange land of Oz.
That's right. With the help of some alcohol, we'll be discussing each of the 14 books in L. Frank Baum's Wizard of Oz series.
Today, we will be finishing Book 3, Ozma of Oz, covering chapters 17 through 21.
We're your hosts, Blake Stone
and Wyatt Swangham.
And joining us, as always, is our resident Oz initiate, Hannah Aguirre.
Hi.
Can you believe that we're almost done?
That's insane.
3 books. You read 3 books this year.
That's good. That's more than I've done in a while.
Well, you recapped what happened last time on Oz Hour in our last time on segment. It took you about 53 seconds to cover it, and you actually did a pretty good job. There's just a couple of things that I want to remind the audience of, and those are that Belina learns that the people of the Emerald City have been turned into green bric-a-brac, and the royal family of Ev are purple, and the Tin Woodman is something funny. And when they all leave or whatever you said, that is because they cannot find Nick Chopper, and they're going to go ask the Gnome King to tell them where he is.
Oh,
but of course he's waiting with his army.
Yeah.
Yes. But very close. I'd call that a win.
I'd call it a win.
Yeah.
Wow.
80%?
Yeah, that's a B minus
That's
if you're doing a
passing.
weighted system. So,
Pass.
well, yeah, okay, yeah, it is.
These
you
are
could do
bachelor's
better.
degrees.
Isn't it C's get degrees?
C's get degrees, D's get diplomas. I don't know if there is.
No,
one
I
for
don't think
D.
you can get D's and get a diploma.
I don't know.
Well, anyway.
So before we started recording, we went ahead and whipped up some cocktails. Tonight, Wyatt made us the Ozmimosa. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so tonight we are drinking the Ozmimosa, which is just pretty much a fortified mimosa with lemonade. So it is some strawberry lemonade vodka and lemonade, and topped off with some bubbly. So we're going to be celebrating tonight like it's the morning with an Ozmimosa.
Happy brunch.
Happy brunch, everyone.
Cheers.
Oh, that slaps.
It's delightful.
Oh, yeah.
That tastes like you would get it at like the fair or something.
I had a bubble in my throat already drinking that, so it kind of fucked me up for a second. Okay. I'm okay. I survived.
Chapter 17. The Scarecrow wins the fight.
So, as we know, last time Belina rescued everyone except for the Tin Woodman. And this chapter kind of like bounces back in time and tells us what was going on in the throne room while she was on her mission.
I love the flashback. I love that it's like a grown-up writing it, you know?
They did it, and I think they did it previously when someone else was guessing too.
I think
yeah, it's
you're
a really
right.
cool feature, and we just happened to stop right in the middle of 2, so it's like a really fun way to come back, I think.
Yeah, no, it's like an anti-cliffhanger. It's a
Yeah.
cliff climber. We just got to
we
the
left
top.
it off pretty hot.
Yes.
Yes.
So Belina goes into the palace, and Evering and Dorothy just like go sit down and wait for her to take her turn.
Yeah, the Gnome King is just smoking his pipe. He's on his throne, and he's just like basically laughing to himself, like, "Oh, obviously that stupid hen is gonna fail. Like, no big deal, right?"
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I just love
Well, yeah,
that.
because suddenly there's a sound, the chiming of a bell, which, as we know, means that someone has been returned to normal.
Yeah, every time an enchantment's broken, this bell dings. It was happening before, but they were hearing it from like inside the palace. I assume it's like louder out here for some reason.
I think it's like in the throne room.
But the bell rings and the Gnome King is like, rockety rickets.
Rockety Ricket.
I'm gonna start saying that.
You better. Everyone better.
Then it dings again. He says, smudge and blazes.
Oh my gosh, he's a trendsetter.
Yeah, he is spitting mad. He's getting mad. He's like, oh, like obviously he's pissed because he did not think this would happen.
Yeah.
He's cursing. Pretty soon he can't even talk anymore. He's hopping around. Like he is literally. It says that Dorothy thinks that he looks like a jumping jack.
He's got anger issues.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's crazy. He's always seething underneath, though, you know?
Yeah.
But Dorothy's kind of living for this because every time that bell dings, she's like,
Yeah, she's very happy.
and she realizes, she's like, that bell just went off more than 10 times. Belina's already plucked up the royal family, and now she's just
so
shopping
proud.
for our friends.
Yeah.
Oh, she's losing it. And then as the Gnome King's freaking out, it's just making her laugh.
Oh my god. Okay, well, chill, Dorothy, because
She's laughing.
I
in
just
his
feel like this
face.
man's dangerous.
Yeah. Well,
That girl is a bad girl.
yeah, and the Gnome King punishes bad girls because he hears Dorothy laugh and he snaps. He it just does this outrageous scream at her, and then he runs to his balcony and he does his little whistle, and all of a sudden all the armies of the Gnome King are filing in and lining up in the throne room.
Yeah. They fill the space because, as
Okay.
you know, it's a huge army. Check the Insta people.
That's just not fair. That's not fair.
Well, they march in and they just
A deal's a deal.
I know. I mean, technically, Belina didn't even cheat. Actually,
It's not her.
No,
You
there
show-
was no fine print.
if I see your cards,
Yeah.
Sorry that you were announcing it to the fucking.
He should have been
sorry.
using code. Why are you
Or
talking
don't
about
talk
that?
about it
And
until it's done.
and,
if you don't want people to find out about it.
Dorothy
Exactly.
I'm not sure if we actually mentioned, but in the last chapter, she walked down the hall and put her ear against the door to see if Belina was in there, but she didn't hear anything. But
Yeah.
I'm like, for all he knows, Dorothy could have heard everything that he
Yeah.
was saying.
That's
It's
true.
insane.
yeah.
And why don't they speak a different? Well, no one speaks a different language. I was gonna say they should be speaking in gnome, but never
I
mind.
know. Well, maybe they are, but everyone's well learned.
Yeah.
But yeah, the gnome army they get into rows and they just stand silently facing the palace doors, just totally silent, waiting for orders.
Meanwhile, Dorothy.
Are they just waiting for Belina to come out, basically?
They're waiting for the Gnome King to say murder, basically.
Dorothy at this point has been kind of pushed to the side of the cavern with the little Prince Evering, that little boy. And then the lion and the tiger are both there with them, kind of on either side of them. Yeah. So they're just chilling, but also pushed to the side by the army.
Yeah, then the Gnome King orders his army to seize Dorothy. And when they go to take her, the hungry tiger and the cowardly lion are just roaring, baring their teeth.
Everyone
and
runs.
the soldiers are absolutely not.
Okay, good. Okay. They're like, that's a wild animal.
Yeah. Well, the Gnome King is forget about the girl. They're already trapped in the corner. But then there's the captain of the guard who's the animals can still bite us even if they're trapped over there. And the king is okay, yeah, I'll do something about it. And then he steps off his throne. And then is there someone that you might be forgetting about, Hannah? Someone else who might be in this room who's on our team? Someone who I forgot about until I read this.
That is in the room with us.
Yeah.
That is on our team. The sawhorse?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I read
But
this,
isn't he fucked up?
No, he's
he's
not.
okay.
He's just been
He's
doing
okay?
nothing. Yeah,
Okay.
he's just been. Oh, because his head was hit.
Yeah, his head got fucked up.
No, they made him new ears so he can hear
Oh,
again.
that's right. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But he runs in. He slides across and kicks the Gnome King in the stomach, and he goes flying into the guards.
Yes, the sawhorse is having his moment.
Oh, yeah. If you were ever going to prove to anyone that you deserve to be alive, now's the time.
Oh my god,
yes.
I'm
But-
gonna cry.
But the Gnome King, tries to do the magic. He gets knocked over. Ow! Murder! Treason! Who did this? He's just screaming with his little fat body.
The sawhorse takes off his sunglasses and he says, I did it. And you let Dorothy alone or I'll do it again. Literally, that's what he says.
The Gnome King waves his hand. He's like, we'll see about that. And he like tries to do some magic. And he's like, you can't move, see? And the Sawhorse is like, guess again. And just like throws his cigarette and like sprints down and just like he kicks his ass one more time.
Why is he Hellboy right now?
The Gnome King flies in the air, lands on top of his captain, and he's like, well, Triddlety Rickets or whatever he says. Not rickets, that's a disease, I think. But but the Gnome King is like, why didn't my magic work? And is it the steward or the captain?
The captain.
He's like, oh, your magic doesn't work on wood, and that thing's made of wood. And the Gnome King's like, oh, rats, I forgot.
Like, oh, duh.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I forgot about that thing about my magic.
Yeah, one of the very few, apparently, limitations on his magic. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Also that he's made of wood. But either way.
L. Frank Baum is like, Lord, let me stop writing this book.
Yeah, he's like,
Seriously,
and
he can't keep up.
Yeah, he's like, and it didn't work on wood. Okay, sure, let's keep going.
But so then the Sawhorse, he takes his place next to the Hungry Tiger, and they're just all, kind of trying to protect Dorothy and Evering.
And the king is just like, okay, forget about it. Like, we'll deal with them later. Like, he's, again, back to being just like, whatever. It
Where are
doesn't
they gonna
matter.
go?
Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
They're surrounded.
Yeah. And at this point, the palace doors open, and out walks all of our cast and crew. Belina, all the Ozians, all the Evians, everyone. Everyone comes out.
Are we not missing anyone?
The
well,
Tin Woodman.
Yeah,
The Tin
he
Woodman?
hasn't been
Okay.
recovered yet. But now everyone that's not an ornament is all together in the same
Right.
throne room.
Okay.
So the Gnome King, after once they come to the door, the Gnome King's like, surrender now. And Belina is just like perched on the Scarecrow's shoulder, and she's like, no, we had a deal, we won. Like,
Yeah.
no, we're gonna leave safely. And he's like, oh yeah, you'll leave safely into my dungeon that's full of lava and fire.
Yeah. The thing is, like, he does this like stupid thing, which he kind of did before, which is he's like, Belina's like, oh, well, like, you promised that I could leave your palace safely. And he's like, well, you left the palace, but you're not out of my realm. And so I'm going to put you in the dungeon. So it's like, I guess that's technically true. But again, if you're going by his meaning and his obviously implied meaning, he's being a crook.
Yeah.
So
He's a humbug.
yes.
Ugh.
And the Scarecrow, so he's like, yeah, but in my dungeon, it's super hot. It's hotter than blue blazes. And the Scarecrow is like, oh, man, I'll burn if they put me down there.
Yeah, not a huge
And-
fan of fire.
Yeah,
as we know.
but everyone would burn. Everyone would burn if they put by lava.
Yeah,
like
right.
I'm just
Don't
like
be
Scarecrow.
selfish.
It's not you. You'd probably live longer than
It's like,
some
yeah,
of them.
it might be a little bit easier for you, but everyone burns.
Yeah.
Everyone burns.
I'd rather go fast
Yeah.
like you, Scarecrow.
Honestly,
Seriously,
yeah.
it'd be one little. With me, it would be a lot of.
Yeah, a lot of.
The Gnome King asks them if they're going to surrender, and Belina just like leans down because she's on the Scarecrow's shoulder, whispers something into his ear, and he smiles and sticks his hands in his pockets.
And then Ozma comes forward. She barges through and she's like, hey, like, we're not going to surrender. Like, we're going to fight you to our death. Army of Oz, go fight to your death.
She said, charge!
Yes.
But one of the generals speaks up and he's like, so actually all of the officers have heart disease, and so we might die if we get too excited, and we really shouldn't. But the private doesn't have heart disease.
Yeah, privates can't get it.
Yeah.
My God.
And Ozma says, okay, whatever. Command the army then.
Why'd you guys come? Also, when we dealt with the Iron Giant, where was your heart problem then?
Yeah,
Right?
seriously.
They tried to turn the fuck back, though.
Maybe that gave them heart disease.
They did try to, yeah. They made another excuse, though.
Yeah, they're much hated.
So yeah, the generals are like, forward march, and then the colonels, and then the majors, and then the captains, they all forward march. They take their turns, and then the private just runs at the gnome army with a spear.
Oh my God.
The
The
private
bravest one out there.
He
He
is.
is.
The private spear can't actually pierce the armor because all the guards or the warriors or whatever, like, it's like steel armor. Like,
my
so,
God.
but he does it. It's sudden. Like, none of them are really expecting an attack. So he knocks like 10 of them over in one row, and then he knocks
shit.
10 more over. And then the captain's axe slices down and slices right through his spear. and then
Okay.
and then the private's helpless,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
not hurt.
Okay. I'm like, dead? Is he dead? What are they doing? Are they just standing around him now?
So they are though. They are just standing around him.
Well, and then the Gnome King like pushes his way to the front and I can only imagine like from where he was at his throne, like one person just going like, oh, and then just like he's probably like, okay, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, what's going
So
on?
he pushes his way to the front. He's like, what is going on? Right when he gets to the front, the Scarecrow hits him in the eye with one of his eggs, left eye.
Oh,
It breaks.
Belina.
Yes, it breaks into his eye, covers his face and beard, and he doesn't really like that.
You'll remember that the Scarecrow had a collection of Belina's eggs that
Yeah.
he was keeping.
And you might also remember eggs are poisonous to the gnomes. Supposedly.
Supposedly. Oh, we forgot that in our recap.
Yeah, we did forget that in the recap.
Yeah.
Okay, you did
that's
not
right.
pass this week.
I'm sorry.
Never mind.
I'm so sorry.
You'll never pass again, I'm sure.
The Gnome King starts screaming, "Help! It's an egg! Run for your lives!"
Yeah. And the captain, everyone takes off. And the Gnome King is just screaming. He's like trying to wipe the egg off of his face. And the Scarecrow throws a second egg into his right eye. And it breaks.
He's like, oh, okay.
He is now blinded entirely. Like he can't see anything. There's egg all over his face. And then Belina flies over. She's on the Scarecrow's shoulder. She flies over to Dorothy's shoulder and she whispers for her to go get that fucking belt and move quick. And
Oh,
she
yeah, that's
does.
right, the belt.
Exactly. Yeah. So that he has all these magic powers or
Then you
whatever.
can take it, and then everyone who are ornaments, right, will be
Yeah.
undone.
Yeah, in
Right.
theory,
Okay.
yeah. In theory.
Okay.
But
Allegedly.
yes, allegedly. But yeah, so Dorothy does. She goes and gets the belt.
She slips it off of him in a tick and goes right back between the lion and the tiger. The Gnome King doesn't even notice it's been taken.
Slay.
Slay. And that is how we end chapter 17. The Scarecrow wins the
What
fight.
a good chapter.
Isn't that fun?
That was so fun.
When I was writing it, I was like, I'm literally writing an actual battle scene. Like
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
I wrote the book.
And Blake, what would you call that battle scene chapter?
I would call that battle scene chapter. That egg escalated quickly.
Ooh,
That
little
line.
try hard, but I like it.
It was
like
really
it.
hard to come up with something.
Chapter 18, The Fate of the Tin Woodman.
So Dorothy obeyed. Belina said, go get that belt. And she did. She runs up and gets it super easily. Sorry, I actually already said this. But yeah, she gets it off quick as a pinch. And she goes back to the wall. The Gnome King's chief steward runs in with a sponge and a bowl of water and helps him clean the egg off his face because apparently he can touch it.
Well,
I don't get it.
It's like, that's the thing is like,
Is like the Gnome King a different species than...
well, but no, because
They're
he's
all
like
gnomes.
freaking out. He
Yeah,
didn't
that's what I
like it when
thought.
Belina laid the egg under his throne or whatever. Like, so I don't know, but we'll see. Well, we won't really see, but it's a big
Yeah.
question. It's like, okay, is it actually poison or could it be poison? Did it not get in his mouth and that's why he was fine? Like,
Yeah, it's interesting.
who knows?
But everyone's just kind of standing there watching the Gnome King get
Yeah.
cleaned up.
To quote my notes, for some reason, everyone just watches. And it specifies that it takes minutes. It takes
my
him minutes to wash him
God.
off.
Like,
And I'm like, I mean,
GTFO.
I guess if, like, they have the belt, you know, like, it's like they're all of
Yeah.
a sudden armed with, like, a semi-automatic weapon. It's like,
Yeah.
they
He
can wait
can't,
for him
like,
to
just
see.
hold them
Yeah, they can't be like,
captive.
exactly, yeah. So,
I mean, they do
Is he still
totally-
in charge of the gnome army without the belt?
Yeah, even without the
Yeah.
belt, he's still their king.
Okay, but
Um,
what's more powerful,
He's
the army or
super
the belt?
weak.
that's a good question, and
That's a
one
great
we may
question.
find out the answer to.
But yeah, the Gnome King, once he gets the egg out of his eyes, he like looks at the Scarecrow and he's like, I'll get you for that. You know eggs are poisonous to gnomes. And Belina is like, okay, those eggs were fresh and above suspicion, so you better just watch it.
Yeah, you should be grateful
It's
for
like,
them.
I don't lay poison.
No. No, AAA organic certified USDA.
The Gnome King is like really stressed out, and the best thing he can come up with is like, I'll turn you all into scorpions. And That's what he attempts
Yeah,
to do.
he tries to do it.
Why scorpions?
I don't know. Why does he
It's-
know what
Do
that
it something.
is?
Do like ants or something.
Yeah.
Well, ants are pretty hard to kill
Turn them
too.
into
but
gnomes.
But they'll die in a day,
Yeah.
so
Why
underground.
scorpions?
I don't know. It's one of the most dangerous things he could turn them into.
Yeah, then they all just go sting him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
But he says some magic words and nothing happens. Obviously, because the steward is like, "Well, what happened to your magic belt? Where did you put it?"
Yeah, the chief steward, he has like no respect or trust for the Gnome King whatsoever. He's like, "What have you done with it?" Like,
And it's like, whose belt is it? Is it the Gnome King's belt, or is it like the cast, like the gnome's belt?
like
I don't
it's
know.
Their
It kind of.
races,
And
bro.
no
Yeah.
one saw Dorothy go and snatch that thing off
Well,
him.
all the other gnomes had. Oh well,
They were jumping off the
Oh.
balcony. They were running out the door because there was an egg, and he said, "Run for your lives." So it was
so
pretty
it was
much
pretty
just
panicked,
him. And
yeah.
Well, and actually, yeah. Also, everyone was at different sides of the like chamber because Dorothy and Evering and the lion and tiger were like on one side, and then everyone else came through a door. So even when Dorothy ran to get the belt, no one necessarily saw her do that. You know.
they could have all been on the other side. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
makes more sense.
But yeah, the Gnome King realizes, "Oh my God, I don't have the belt, and that means I'm fucked."
Yeah.
So Dorothy steps forward, and she's like, "Ozma of Oz, Queen of Ev, welcome back to the land of the living.
Yeah.
Feline has saved you, and it's time we get the hell out of here."
yeah.
At this point, they all see that Dorothy's wearing the belt, and they give a cheer. And the Gnome King also sees, and he crawls on his throne and starts crying.
Oh my
Like a
gosh.
whipped dog.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
tick.
It is pathetic, but also like crushing.
Yeah.
That belt seems quite powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, my kingdom for an ornament.
Yeah.
But Ozma's like, "No, Dorothy, you don't understand. Like, we didn't get the Tin Woodman. We can't leave."
Yeah. And Belina explains that she didn't have any clues, so they'll really just have to go back in and find him.
Did you notice that Clue was spelled Clew?
No.
Yeah, it was. I didn't put it in my notes, but the way you just said Clue, it sounded like you were reading it that way.
No, I just said it the way I would. Clue,
Clue.
right? We all say
Clue.
that. Clue.
Well, that's how Frank Baum says it too.
Yes.
And spells it.
But Dorothy is like, "Okay, well, we're going to go back in there and we're going to find him. I can probably use the belt."
So they all go back in, except for the Gnome King, obviously, who's just still crying. And also the Queen has just reunited with her youngest son, Evering, the one that Dorothy took out. So, because she still hasn't seen him yet.
They're
So she's like,
having a moment.
"Oh, Evering, yeah." Like, he's like a little baby, and she's
He's
like,
like
tickling his
4.
belly. And yeah, well, not like an animal. Well, kind of like an animal.
How long
yeah.
have they been captured?
Well, I'm not sure, but we
Less
don't.
than a year, maybe?
But
Oh,
we
okay.
don't know, or they don't know how long they've been like
They have
there
no
because they don't have a memory
recollection.
of it. So it's not
Yeah.
like they know.
Well, I was like, if years and years have passed, but they stay the same age, that would be pretty insane.
Yeah, the last thing they really
maybe.
remember is like being sold.
Yeah.
So they have like no concept of like
God.
for them, it's just
they
the
just
next
woke
moment.
up. Yeah.
It's like they're dead. I hate it.
But she knows something is terribly wrong, so I feel like she wants to like be a mama bear and protect.
Yes. Yeah.
So Dorothy goes into each room of the palace and she like waves her hand like she saw the Gnome King do, and she commands the Tin Woodman to resume his proper form.
But it doesn't work. None of the rooms. Everyone she goes into, she tries it, doesn't happen. So they're like, okay, like, let's just go out. And they exit. And the Gnome King is just cracking up. He's jeering and laughing at them because, of course, the belt won't work for Dorothy.
Because she's not from Ev.
He's like, "You don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
it's not of any use to you. Give it back to me. I'll let you go. But the royal family of Ev has to stay."
Yeah. He's like, all the Aussians, you, Belina, like, everyone except the royal family can leave because they're mine. But if you give me the belt, I'll let you guys leave.
That's
and
not
I'll-
fair.
It's
And
just-
he'll give them the Tin
It leaves
Woodman.
everybody exactly where they were before.
Yeah,
Ozma.
Yeah.
that's not fair because we made a deal and we got what we want,
Yeah.
or we got. They did it.
They earned what they should
I'm
be
mad.
getting.
Well, and don't even worry because Dorothy's like, "No, you know what? I'm gonna keep this."
yeah. yeah, I would not
She
give
is
him
keeping
that back.
that belt.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't care if I don't know how to use it. I'll get someone that does know how to use it, and I'll fucking
Exactly.
take you down.
If
Yeah.
you
I know,
don't-
I know high people.
Yeah,
But the
And-
thing is, she's like, well, we're just gonna leave, and he's like, how are you gonna leave? And they turn around, and the entrance they came from is gone. So like the stone passage they came in from the outside world is just missing, and they're like, oh, okay, fuck. And the Gnome King's like, okay, I'll reveal the Tin Woodman and then just give me the belt back, okay?
Dorothy waves her hand at the wall and says, I command the passage to open. And it does. So she does know
she
how
does
to
know
use
how
the
to-
belt.
yeah.
She just doesn't know how to find the Tin Woodman. Which Ozma even asks.
Yeah, well, and at that point, the Gnome King's like, okay, I'll find the Tin Woodman for you since you don't know how to do that, and then give me the belt back, and then you can go.
No.
And Dorothy considers it.
She's actually thinking about
Yeah,
it.
because
No.
at this point, it's pretty much it's everything that they wanted to do, except she has to give the belt back. So it's
And
like,
so anything can happen.
but
then.
exactly, Belina, God praise her, is like, fuck that. If he gets that belt back, we're all fucked.
Yeah.
Dorothy, we
He's
are
the
not,
most powerful one again.
Yes,
Yeah,
are
and
not
we know
going
he's
to get out of here
horrible.
alive as long as he's holding that belt. You
Yeah.
need to keep that belt.
Oh, yes.
And the Scarecrow's like, I think Belina's right. And also because of my excellent brains, I have a great
oh
idea.
my god. Bitch, you have no brains.
He is brainless.
Yeah.
Brainless.
You're literally brainless. Grow up.
But he's like, okay, how about Gnome King? You go and get Nick Chopper and bring him to us, or else Dorothy's going to turn you into a goose egg.
And the king hates that.
It gives him the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, he's like, no,
"Ew."
please, no, I don't want to be a goose egg. Okay,
That
fine.
does sound really horrible.
It does, and he's allergic. Maybe to is it all eggs or is it just chicken eggs? Why not?
Which-
I
That's
guess
a
it would
great
be all
question.
eggs.
That is a good question
All
because
eggs.
if you were turned into something that you're allergic to, you're still allergic to it.
Probably not in this world.
That's a big. That's a big.
You know what?
thing.
That's one of those conversations we can't have on the
Yeah.
podcast.
Was that like a thing in like that movie The Shaggy Dog where like he was allergic to dogs and they turned it into like while he was the dog he was like sneezing a lot? That was one of the bits.
Is this like that monkey bone thing?
The Shaggy Dog.
I know, Tim Allen.
I don't know what
Jeez
that is.
Louise.
It was like a B movie that I have never seen. So the Gnome King is like, I don't want to be a fucking egg. So yes, I will go into the palace. I'll get the Tin Woodman and bring him out. So he goes in, and they're all just waiting outside, just chilling, just waiting. And so he returns empty-handed.
Yeah, and he like kind of took a while. Everyone was getting like kind of impatient. And he looks a little like confused.
He looks distressed, and he's like, hey, the Tin Woodman is gone. He's nowhere in the palace. I saw what he turned into, and I saw where, and when I go in there, I can't find anything in that area, and I can't find him. He has disappeared. Please don't turn me into an egg.
Yeah, like he's not lying. He's begging for his life right now. Like he genuinely doesn't know where the Tin Woodman is.
Oh
And
my gosh.
while I do not understand why they did this, they said, okay, he must be telling the truth, and the Tin Woodman is just gone. And there's no use punishing the Gnome King because, like, it's not really his fault. He's just, the Tin Woodman's
Yeah,
gone.
he just lost our friend.
Yeah, and I'm like,
Dorothy's too forgiving sometimes. Like with the Wheeler, how she's like, oh no, even though you would have murdered me and bashed my face in, I'll keep your
Yeah.
little secret. Oh, don't be
Yeah.
so cruel and rough with him.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
God.
insane.
Where's Belina?
I know. Yeah, literally.
We need a level-headed
She should
mother.
be.
Yeah.
Belina would be pecking out his eye.
Literally.
Yeah,
He'd already be an egg.
Yeah, he would be an egg.
Get inside of me and I'm going to push him back out.
Ew. But it's like, it's insane, even though I kind of get it. But yeah, if it were me, if I were Dorothy, the Gnome King would have a cut face.
Yeah.
I'd be like, you're going to have a scar forever to remember what you did.
Yeah.
But they decided to just leave.
Yeah, everyone's super sad. What that one general is still crying because the Tin Woodman owed him 6 weeks back pay, if you remember that from
Yeah.
before.
Fun joke.
God damn it.
Yeah, everyone agrees Nick's going to be left behind, and Ozma orders her army to begin the march through the passage.
No.
So
Nick
they go.
Chopper's my favorite.
They leave. They start down to the exit, but Ozma turns around, and you know what she sees? A bunch of guards running at them with swords and
Full
axes.
Okay.
They are gonna kill them. The Gnome King is like in the background, like sneering from his throne,
course
like
he is.
being a little prick.
He's disgusting.
Yeah, it's awful. And literally they're gonna kill them. But Dorothy turns around, waves her hand, and all the guards are turned into eggs. and the eggs roll back into the chamber, and everyone runs away in fear again.
Yeah, like the first
my
like 20 of them are eggs, so they roll back into the rest of them,
and they
they're
just
like,
freak out.
Yeah.
and I picture Dorothy doing that with like no enthusiasm. Like
Yeah.
she's just
No.
so tired and depressed.
She's like,
and like
Okay.
Yeah. She's like, eggs. All you are is eggs. But also, I imagine each of the guards turning into like 100 eggs, like kind of like bursting into eggs. Not each of them
No, not
becomes
just
one
being
egg.
one egg.
That's just my head canon, basically.
I like that image. That's way
yeah.
cooler.
And also scarier. But yeah, everyone hates it, and then they just leave. They get to the exit.
They make
and
it back to the surface.
Yeah.
They've got sun on their skin. They're smelling the fresh air. Like, I'm gonna cry. They've been underground for like 2-3 days.
Yeah, it's been a
Yeah.
lot.
And the family of Ev has been under there for even longer, even though they don't even remember it.
So on their way back, did they not have to encounter the giant again?
Yeah, actually, they're walking along on their way to Ev, and they start hearing the thump, thump, thump.
Oh, okay.
And the Queen of Ev is like, "How are we gonna get past that monstrous man of iron?"
Well, bitch, I got
Yeah.
a belt.
But yeah, they wave. Dorothy waves her hand, and the hammer stops in midair. They all go under. Also, in their little cavalcade home, Ozma is riding on the lion, the Queen of Ev is riding on the tiger, and then all of her little babies have their hands held, and Dorothy's riding the sawhorse. So they all have their little rides, and that's how they're going to get to the chariot in a second. They're going to get to the chariot in a second. But
Yeah, it's right on the other side of the giant.
they're all just walking pretty, trying to get home.
Okay.
And that's where we end chapter 18, entitled The Fate of the Tin Woodman. And Blake, what would you call that chapter?
Well, this is going to be a little bit disrespectful, but I'm going to call that chapter Nick Chopper Twice Removed, because he used to be a meat man, and then his body was destroyed, and he was something else, and then his body was destroyed again, and now he's something else. He's been around the circle of life a couple times.
I want to cry.
He's like a twice baked potato.
I love Nick Chopper. He was my soulmate.
Chapter 19, The King of Ev.
So the book says if there are any gnomes on the face of the mountain this time, they're not jumping around and they're not laughing.
Because last time they were freaky, right? Like
Yeah.
they scared us all. But they're being quiet. If they're there, even they're being quiet. They're not laughing, and they're just being like respectful, basically, but more like probably scared because they know that like their king just got defeated.
Yeah.
So on the other side of the giant, they find their chariot. They hitch the lion and the tiger back up to it. And the size of the chariot, it's big enough for Ozma, the queen, and 6 of her children to sit up. And 6 out of 10. So
Yeah.
4 walk.
Many.
The oldest ones probably.
But little Evering got to sit next to Dorothy on the sawhorse because he's becoming friends with her.
They have
like,
a moment.
He's warmed up, yeah, and they're just chatting and like
He starts
you know.
off like really shy. I don't know if you remember, like the scarecrow tried to hug him, and he was like, ah! Like which understandable.
I mean, I would be
But-
scared too.
But yeah, he was like really shy. But now, yeah, they just him and Dorothy are 2 peas in a pod. They chat. He loves her.
And he also loves Bellina, and Bellina is just like sitting on the sawhorse's head as he walks. So he's like talking to her, and he thinks she's so smart. Yeah, they're chilling like villains. They're cute little babies.
They go along the like deep canyon before that they had to use the magic carpet for. They use the magic carpet
Use it
again. Everyone
again.
goes across. They get near to Ev, and they can smell like flowers and fresh mown hay, and they're
my
feeling the sun on their
gosh.
faces.
There's
and it's
birds
just, like,
singing again. Like it's they're home. You know, they're getting
I'm
home.
having a different, like, I feel like image of Ev now.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Because before, and you will throughout this chapter or this like
Because
chapter,
Ev's kind
you'll
of
see.
scared me.
I picture like the Oregon coast. Honestly, it's like Astoria.
Yeah, it's like stormy, cold coastline with like a forest and then a big castle with wheelers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so much like the coast.
Yeah.
So I mean, things are. I mean, a lot of things are good about being back above ground, but like the Scarecrow is like his heart is broken that the Tin Woodman is that they weren't able to rescue the Tin Woodman. You know,
His
He's just like talking to
lover.
TikTok. He's like, ugh, like I'd be very content if we didn't have to leave Nick behind. Like it breaks his heart.
Yeah.
He's super sad.
They're BFFs. They're SpongeBob and Patrick. They're
They're,
Curious
let's
George
say
and the
Bert
Man
and
in the Yellow
Ernie. They're a little more romantic than that. But TikTok is like, oh, he was actually a really fine fellow, but he was not made of a very durable material.
Scarecrow gets a little defensive.
Yeah.
And rightfully.
It's a little too early to
Yeah.
be going and talking shit about him.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if one of your best friends died and someone comes up to you and it's like, well, his like fashion wasn't that good. And it's like, why are you saying this to me right now?
What?
God. Yeah, and literally that's how the Scarecrow responds. He's like, well, actually, tin is a great material, and if anything happened to him, he would be easy to solder, and also he didn't have to be wound up and wasn't likely to go out of order like you are.
Oh.
Yeah,
Which,
so
like,
he
fair.
rips. It is. It
He's
is fair.
allowed,
And
honestly.
I like TikTok, but he really needed to be
Well,
put in his place.
yeah.
The thing is, and
TikTok doesn't understand.
I'm about yes. So what
He's
I'm about
AI.
to say,
Yeah.
yeah, what I'm about to quote from the book or talk about from the book is going to completely refute what I'm going to say, which is that TikTok is a machine. He can't think, he can't feel. He does what he's supposed to do. So he's not being personal. Like that's just his computer brain. But then in the book, in this moment, TikTok reflects that he wishes that he was stuffed with straw sometimes instead of being made of copper. And it's like, okay, wait, now you're talking about what you wish and you're trying to like ingratiate the Scarecrow by like praising him. Like, are you all of a sudden like emotionally intelligent? Like,
Yeah.
can he wish for that? I don't know.
What
It sounds
is my
manipulative.
purpose?
Yeah. Very that. But the Scarecrow says that he has it pretty good. But that he can never be as polished the way that Nick was.
You know.
Anyway.
Anyway, yeah, because like I don't know what all that interaction was even about, but the royal family of Ev are having like a way less depressive time up at the front of the cavalcade
Party.
because they're
come
like
over the hill.
so excited to go home.
They see the castle. They see the gardens, all those flowers. It's beautiful. And it's a huge relief.
They can't contain themselves. They like yip and holler and
Yeah.
cheer when they see their castle.
And like, not that I've ever been kidnapped and enslaved, but it's like at the end of a road trip when you're like 30 minutes from home and like you know that you're almost home, but like you're like still have all the trip anxiety. You're like, this is the route I drive every day, but it doesn't matter. I'm not home. And then when you get home, you're like, oh my God, it's done. I'm fucking home. Like they must have had so much anxiety the whole way, and then seeing their actual castle is like,
being there.
yeah. So they are
that's
just
so true. Anything can happen in between.
exactly
Yeah.
yeah. The giant, the chasm. They're lucky they had a belt and a magic carpet because otherwise,
Seriously.
if they had escaped on their own sometime, they would never have gotten home. They would have died in the woods
Magic saves our lives again.
yet again.
But Evering is so excited to see their palace that he takes out his little tin whistle and he blows into it, and it's like this super shrill sound. It makes a sawhorse like jump because he's on the sawhorse's back.
Yeah,
you know?
he does a little giddy up, and it upsets Belina, and she's like, "What the fuck was that?" And Evering is just like, "It's just my whistle."
Yeah, and he like shows it to her.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
and it's a little tin whistle. It's shaped like a pig, and it's painted green.
Yeah, the part you blow into is like sticking out of the pig's rump.
So
And-
Belina leans in, and she notices a couple things. It's a tin whistle, and it's green.
And it's kind of funny.
It is kind of funny. I don't really understand the joke, I don't think.
It's just the funniest thing you ever saw. A little green pig.
So this bitch took a little souvenir from the throne room.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what Belina wonders.
She's like, "Where did you get this?" And he's like, "Oh, well, while Dorothy was making her guesses, I found it and I put it in my pocket." And Belina cracks up laughing.
Yeah, she is like losing it. And she's like, oh, like, well, Dorothy is like, what the hell are you doing, Belina? Like, what could possibly be so funny right now?
And Belina is like, "Well, no wonder we couldn't find the Tin Woodman. He's been in the prince's pocket the whole time."
Oh my God.
And he's a little like he's like just older than a toddler, you know.
Yeah.
And so he like fights a little bit. He's like, "No, like it's just my whistle." And she's like, "Okay, well then how about this?" She like sticks out her claw and touches it and says, "Ev."
And swish.
Swish, swish.
It's literally like its own paragraph. Swish, it says.
Yeah. It has an indent and all. And the Tin Woodman appears, removes his little hat, he bows, and says that he must have slept for the first time since becoming tin because he doesn't remember anything since he entered the throne room.
Yeah, Dorothy's just like so excited to see him. She's like kind of crying. She throws her arms around him. She's like, "Oh, you were enchanted. It's okay. Like you're okay now. Like we're all
You're
together
safe.
again.
It's fine.
And
And
every
he like
everyone
he
got
doesn't
saved.
feel unsafe at all. He's like, "Oh, well, how do you do?" And she's like,
yeah, it's very
Especially he woke up in a scenario that's much safer than the rest of them.
"Yeah,
Oh,
he
yeah.
woke up
Oh my
back on
God.
the surface."
Yeah. It's giving me kind of Frosty the Snowman vibes when he's like, "Happy birthday!" Like he just woke up again, and it's like, dude, what? So it's giving that. But Evering is crying, and he's like, "I want my whistle!" Like
Oh
he's
my
a little
God.
pissed.
Like you can't get him another whistle.
Oh my God. Well, Belina is like, "Hush up. Like we will get you a new whistle later.
Yes,
Shut
Belina.
up."
She's like, yeah, she's like, your whistle is lost now. You can have another one when you're home.
Yeah, literally.
And he's fine with that. And
Yeah,
then
or so we're led to believe. I mean, he doesn't say anything.
He gets over it.
Maybe he goes into the woods.
Do you think he recognizes Belina as an adult? Like, if she was like scolding you when you were a kid, do you think you would
her
mind
tone,
her?
I think, comes across as
yeah,
adults.
I think if someone was
Like-
talking to me like that when I was a kid, I was like, oh, they're in charge of
Yes,
me.
Miss Chicken.
Yeah, like, yes, Auntie Belina.
The Scarecrow throws himself into the Tin Woodman's bosom, and they hug. TikTok squeezes the Tin Woodman's hand so earnestly that he dents some of his fingers.
Good.
Yeah. Never forget.
Then like Ozma greets the Tin Woodman, and then the whole army sees that he's back, and they just set up a cheer.
They're all well pleased. They're all happy. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, literally that. Probably
For the Tin Woodman was a great favorite with all who knew him, and his sudden recovery after they had thought he was lost to them forever was indeed a pleasant surprise. Where are my Tin Woodman fans at?
Right here.
They're all there. There's many of them. But so yeah, they're all very happy, and then they get back to the palace. And all of a sudden, so before I imagine it being like deserted, before. But there's crowds of people. There's tons of people. They're screaming. They're cheering. They're
How
like,
we
"Oh,
didn't
welcome
meet
back.
any of
Woo,
them.
woo." Yeah, all we got is
Well, that's
some
how like
wheelers.
when we first got introduced, it felt like abandoned.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It is very much not that. There are people everywhere, and they're all there to welcome the.
Aw.
And granted, I don't know how they know everyone's coming back, but before
Maybe
wheelers are kind
they've
of running
been there.
amok.
They've been live
Maybe
streaming.
they've been there ever since they left, and they've just been hopeful. that
Oh
they'd
yeah,
return.
maybe
Oh, hopeful
yeah.
for their
Word
return.
spread when Ozma got there. People
Yeah.
started talking, and people were probably just hiding
true.
before.
Yeah.
It's a scary time, so they must be fucking pumped.
I mean,
Honestly.
Nanda has to go home and talk to her husband sometimes.
She's spilling the tea.
yeah.
She's letting everyone know it's
But
up.
yeah, I mean, everyone's cheering, crying, dancing, throwing flowers.
I bet
It's
Langwadier's
beautiful.
happy.
Oh my God! Well, they go inside and find Langwadier in her room full of mirrors, admiring some new head.
Yeah, she's just like sitting in her chambers, and the queen is like, "You're relieved of your duties, and you know what? You can remain in the castle as long as you live." And frankly, Langwadier did supply a lot of crucial information and or help them, even though she is dangerous and needs to have some kind of counseling.
Yeah.
She did play a
Therapy,
good
please.
role.
We
Yes.
wouldn't have gotten this far without her.
Yeah.
Like if they showed up at the palace and there was nobody, then we'd have to like follow a series of clues. And I just
Yeah.
don't trust L. Frank Baum to write that book.
No.
Too confusing. We needed a messenger.
Yeah, this isn't exactly the Polar Express. I'm just kidding. I meant the Orient Express.
Oh, that makes way more sense.
Agatha
dude.
Christie, come on.
So the queen leads her eldest son, Avardo, out onto a balcony overlooking the crowds of people celebrating below. And she says to them, "Here's your future ruler, King Avardo, 15th."
And you might be wondering, 15th? Why? Well,
because his dad's name isn't even Avardo.
yeah, it's Evaldo. Well, there's a couple reasons.
Okay.
So he's 15 years old. He has 15 silver buckles on his vest. And he's the 15th Evardo to rule the throne. So That's it. You got 3 reasons. Now you get to be the 15th.
She was just
Why
like,
couldn't the one reason just be that he was the 15th?
why couldn't
Yeah, it could have been that, right?
Because he's not going to be 15 forever.
No.
And who knows how many more buckles he's going to get on his
you
belt.
really
So-
lost me with the other
Yes.
shit.
Okay, so I do have a little bit of commentary on this that I didn't put in my notes, but I do think is worth discussing. I thought in the moment, is this kind of like a parody or a commentary on the popes? Because when you become pope, you take like a pope name, and if there's been a pope with that name before, you become the 10th or the 11th or whatever. So, Benedict the 8th or whatever the fuck. And so I'm like, either was he trying to avoid seeming like it was a parody and so adding things so it's like you're taking the same name, or was he trying to make a commentary on like the pope or like the papacy in general? I don't know. There's probably nothing there. I also didn't look into the importance of the number 15, but I think there's a little something there, at least in,
That's really interesting regardless.
Yeah.
I like that
Yeah.
connection.
So there you go. Was he Catholic, Blake? You're the L. Frank Baum expert.
L. Frank Baum was not Catholic, no.
All right.
The people shouted his name 15 times, and there are
course.
even some wheelers present, and they promised to obey their new king. I don't know. What
It's
they-
good.
I guess
I'm
they
glad.
could come in
What are
and
they
say their
doing?
piece, maybe.
Yeah, it's like because we were all wondering, are the wheelers gonna be nice? I don't know.
They made
So
their
weird.
promise, so I'm glad to know they're fulfilling
They're part
it.
of Ev, too.
Yeah, I mean that's true. They're
Ugh,
people.
yeah.
But the queen adorns Avaldo with a huge gold crown with rubies set in it, and she throws an ermine robe over his shoulders, and she proclaims him king. And Hannah, I've got a little bit of guest trivia for you.
Okay.
Hannah, do you know what an ermine is?
God damn it.
Wait a minute. Is this multiple choice?
It is not
Ooh.
multiple choice.
Okay,
But
say
it's a robe. He's wearing an ermine robe.
an ermine robe. What the fuck is that?
I've heard the words before, but today's the first time I've actually
and
like.
it's a robe, and that's what we know.
Yeah, like that, like a king would wear.
Maybe just like one of those robes that have like the white trimming on
The
it,
white
and
with,
like
like, the
the
black
hood. Yeah, the
spots.
black spots.
Okay,
Huh?
Is that what it is?
That is
That's-
what it is.
Honestly, the only reason I got that is because I used to play Sims Medieval, and we would dress up the king or the queen, and they would wear that type of robe. Like,
oh my god,
if
that
you
is
ever
so
played
funny.
that character,
Did you
'Cause
ever
you could
watch-
be anything. You could be a knight. You could be
I didn't know
spy.
Sims existed that way.
Sims Medieval is the funnest game like ever to be invented. I love that game.
Oh my god.
I'd argue Sims Nightlife, where there's vampires, is equally fun.
Oh my god, I haven't played that.
Well, that's Sims 3, everyone. 2012, maybe.
So the ermine is part of the family of carnivorous mammals, which includes weasels, badgers, otters, mink, and wolverines, among others. It differs from the common weasel due to its larger size and longer tail with a prominent black tip that looks like it's been dipped in ink. So when you see that collar with like all the dots on it, that's actually their booties.
Wow. That's
Oh.
just like their tail tufts?
Yep.
Wow. That's how many ermines per coat?
I could not find that, but there are pictures of them like putting them together for like the inner lining of a robe.
Uh-huh.
And so they'll do like an entire robe with
Ugh.
it, but I don't know. I have no idea.
You know, folks, animal farming is neither sustainable nor ethical, especially for fur. So I'm not a vegan or anything, but
Yeah.
come on.
That's
how
pretty
many
rough.
tails?
Well, you know
Ugh.
who's not worried about farming animals? Avardo, because he bows deeply to his subjects, and then he goes back into the palace to see if he can find any cake in the royal pantry.
He's only 15.
He's 15.
He's like,
He's
"Let me eat
growing.
that
He's a
cake."
growing boy.
But that night, the queen hosts and entertains all the citizens of Oz and Dorothy and, the whole gang. She's very thankful. There's a big ceremony where Bellina is presented with a pearl necklace studded with sapphires as a token of esteem from the king. So they all really love Bellina for literally saving all of them. And they have a wonderful night in Ev. And that's how we end chapter 19, originally titled The King of Ev. And Blake, what would you call that?
I would call that a warm welcome.
Nothing about the Tin Man?
Well, he got a warm welcome, and then the royal family got a warm
Okay.
welcome,
It was
and
a
then
big
Bellina got a warm
warm
welcome to
welcome.
Ev.
That's believable. Chapter 20, The Emerald City.
So Ozma invites Dorothy to join her in Oz, and Dorothy's like, yeah, I mean, my chances of getting home from Oz are just as good as they are from Ev. Uncle Henry probably already thinks I'm lost in the sea forever, so like, yeah, what's another day in Oz?
And honestly, I think Oz is a way better place for her to be if she wants to get home.
She has connections there.
Yeah, and she's seen powerful wizards. Like,
Yeah,
Oz-
she knows Glinda.
Yeah, exactly. Ozma came to Ev because no one else could help. And Ozma's not exactly the most powerful person in the world. So
Yeah.
I think she's better off in Oz, all to say.
Let's go to Oz.
Yeah. So they bid farewell to the
Yeah.
people of Ev.
The new king promises Ozma that Ev owes Oz one. And if he can, he'll help them when they need it. And TikTok's permitted to join them on the journey back to Oz because he's Dorothy's faithful follower, and technically he belongs to her. So Dorothy winds him up, and he marches along with them.
Yeah. And along the way, they stop for Bellina to lay an egg, but otherwise they go swiftly and they arrive in Munchkin Land right before evening falls.
Oh,
Yep.
fun. Are they going to party?
Well,
Oh,
the
they
king of the
do.
Munchkins greets Ozma and her army at the border. And
The
he's very
who?
happy. Yeah, because now there's a
I
king.
thought it was the mayor.
Yeah, the mayor named Bach.
Okay,
Now it's a
that's
king.
in Wicked.
No.
In the original, in the first book, a rich Munchkin hosts them, but it's not the mayor.
Oh, maybe that is from.
It is from Wicked.
I'm pretty sure the name Bach is in the book, though.
It's almost the word book.
Okay, anyway. onward.
So they're greeted by the Munchkin King, which, yes, like, what the hell? But L. Frank Baum supplies that, well, there's a king in every quadrant. There's a king of the Munchkins, a king of the Winkies, a king of the Quadlings, and a king of the Gillikins.
Even
So
though
he knows what he's doing.
That's not true,
Nick
though.
Chopper's an emperor, he's not a king.
Also, Nick Chopper, the Tin Woodman, in this book, is never stylized as leader of the Winkies. He is titled and stylized as commander of the Ozian army. He is never mentioned as leader of the Winkies.
So they spend the night at the Munchkin King's palace, and the next morning they set back off on the road of Yellow Brick to complete their trip to the Emerald City.
And on the way, they stop for some refreshments. You know, I mean, it's fucking Ozma, so everyone wants to cater to them, right?
Like anyone who lives off the side of the Yellow Brick Road is like standing there watching Ozma and her army
Yeah.
go by. It's like a huge deal.
Because they know they left, and so now they're coming back. Everyone, it's great news that they came back, but it's also not a surprise. And they stop, and a pretty little dairymaid gives Ozma a bowl of milk. And I'm like, what, for her cat? Like a bowl of milk for her to slurp out of? Is
it's
there
for
cereal?
her to slurp out of.
God, like they didn't have cups.
It's for her to wash her face in.
Oh yeah, right.
I mean, is milk good for your skin?
It
I
has
don't know,
calcium.
Maybe. Langwedier probably bathes in milk.
Oh, God.
Very Snow White and the Huntsman, starring Kristen Stewart. Kristen Stewart.
Oh
Kristen
yeah.
Stewart,
Kristen
yeah.
Stewart.
So Ozma takes a closer look at this milkmaid.
A name that you thought you would never hear again, Hannah. This is Ginger. This milkmaid is prior general of the Army of Revolt, General Ginger.
Who Ozma knew as the boy Tip.
Yes.
Oh.
So they haven't seen each other since.
So they don't really like know each. Well, he knows. She knows.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Ginger knows Tip, but
Yeah,
but not
but does
Ozma.
Ozma know Ginger?
Ozma remembers.
All that shit.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And Ozma declares that, and Ginger's like, yeah, like, I married a guy, he owns 9 cows, like, I'm content to lead a quiet life, like, free of any kind of revolt.
And I mind my
she
own
settles
business.
down. She
yeah,
settled
so
down.
she's chilling.
Yeah.
But on one hand, I'm like, oh wow, this kind of like speaks to like the power of recovery and rehabilitation. Like they said, we're not going to punish Ginger. Like she says she's going to do good. We're believing her. And then, you know, like she does do good, where I think she probably should have been hanged in the last book
She
because
committed war
she
crimes.
did war crimes.
Yeah,
But-
she kind of took over all of Oz,
Well, they're like, where's your husband?
or like the Emerald City, I guess. Not all of Oz.
yeah. Well,
but-
who
Well,
knows what was
if you're-
next?
If you're in
True.
charge of the Emerald City, you're in charge of Oz.
yeah, true.
Basically, yeah. But at this point, they're like, oh, well, where's your husband? You know, because she already mentioned she was married and he owned the farm. And Blake, where is her husband?
Her husband's inside the house. He's nursing a black eye because he insisted on milking the red cow, but Ginger wanted him to milk the white one. But I guess he'll know better to not be so foolish in the future. Which, is it saying that Ginger beat him or that he was kicked by the red cow? Okay.
Oh.
Okay. So she beat him
gosh.
because he didn't listen to her. So she's not actually
So
content
she's not
in her life.
reformed.
Oh.
Is she not happy?
Oh, God. In the reading, I thought, okay, like, this is a quote joke, even though it's not funny, about like domestic violence. And like she hit him in the eye because he quote disobeyed her or whatever. But actually, it makes more sense if she really is reformed.
And she just knew better than to milk the red cow.
Wow, I prefer that reading, honestly, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And it sheds a better light on Ginger, who I really did want to think was reformed.
Wow.
So
It could really. Wow.
we're gonna.
Yeah, sorry to like read way too much into this book, but I kind of like that's kind of my job.
Well, like now I'm just like I'm caught in the middle of like,
Ooh,
is Ginger abusive or is she just really trying to make sure no one gets hurt by this cow?
Yeah,
All right, guys, comment below.
Yeah,
let
please,
us know
what do
in
you
the
think?
read the
comments.
novel. Let us know. But anyway,
So yeah, they continue on their way and they see this big building with like a bunch of flags on it. And Dorothy's like, I've never seen that building before. What is that? And Ozma's like, oh, that's the College of Art and Athletic Perfection. It was built actually recently. And Mr. H.M. Wogglebug T.E., he's actually the school's president.
yeah, she's like
Cameo.
It keeps him pretty busy. And then they just keep going. And they get to the right.
That was for the fans.
Yeah. They also not mentioned they crossed the river, that they had to go across on the raft before, but now there's a ferry there. So it's like infrastructure seems better. Like they're making their way from Munchkinland to the Emerald City. Like they go on a boat instead of having to like swim across on a little raft. Like there's a new building because it's like, oh, they got into the farmlands. Like there's new buildings. So things are getting better in Oz, which is just kind of interesting.
Ozma's opulent.
She's making
Yes.
things happen.
Honestly, I would have preferred a Mombi cameo to a Ginger cameo. Like if
Agreed.
Mombi was like, I made some biscuits, that's
If
crazy.
Mombi was
But no,
reformed.
Mombi is irredeemable though. Well, I mean, if she was doing better, great. But it's like you got all of your.
She's magicless and she lives with
But yeah,
Ozma.
that's the thing is it's like you're forced.
She does live with Ozma?
Well, in the last book, Ozma said she'd like care for her.
Oh, I see.
I just assumed that meant she would live in the north and like have her pension.
Oh, she'd like financially support her.
Yeah, I don't think she'd like
She's
carry
like,
her
here's
milk
3,000
to
a
her.
month.
I
You don't
don't-
have to work anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, she doesn't have to do her little magic fixins.
She sends her 2 chickens a week.
yeah, and 2 cows with 4 horns. I think that's a reference to the first book. But at any rate, it's all very sweet.
Yeah. And as they approach the Emerald City, the people start flocking out of the gates of the Emerald City. All the officials and officers are like wearing their holiday attire, which I assume is like very just pretty uniform. And the people of the Emerald City like go out and they meet the chariot and like surround it. And then they just lead it back to like the gates of the Emerald City. Just while they're like just cheering and blessing Ozma, and Ozma just the whole time is just like bowing like to the left and bowing to the right, and bowing to the left and bowing to the right because like
She's
it's
popular.
just so like
she's done a
the
lot.
outpouring of love. She just like doesn't even know what to do.
Overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so
She's going to break her back.
she is if she hasn't already. So they get to the palace. There's a big reception. Like all the most important people are in Oz are in attendance, including someone whose name you'll recognize, Jack Pumpkinhead.
What the fuck is he doing back?
Yeah, he's a
I thought
little
he died.
he's a little
Yeah.
overright, but he's still active according to the book.
Yes, to
So
quote the
he's
book.
zombie.
Zombie Jack.
We wonder. I
Zombie.
literally.
Well, yeah, he's either an imposter or he's a demon ghost.
I was
because
just
he's
like,
dead.
what is this? Like the
Demon
ghost of Oz Hour Past? Like, why is he here? It's
Can
so
Alfred
upsetting.
Baum be bothered to remember one thing?
Yeah,
Like other than
just
the word
reread the
Dorothy?
book before you write it. This can't take
Literally.
that long to write.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So
the books are 200
I've
pages.
already mourned. I already did my thing. He's dead to me.
yeah, one he should be, but he's not, and he reads a congratulatory address for Ozma, like because she did the victory. She was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I went to do this. I did it." And he says, "Good job." And then everyone gets a medal.
Yeah.
Did they describe him as being soggy?
They said
yeah,
that he
this
was
is
overripe. but still active. So maybe it's a joke on growing old.
Like maybe they like added like 2 like little pegs under his like
Ew, so he doesn't
pumpkin.
slide all the way
Yeah.
down his wooden frame. Ew.
But yeah, Ozma gets an essay read to her. The 26 officers are all given gold medals set with precious stones.
Ugh.
The Tin Woodman's given a new axe studded
What about
with
the private?
diamonds. He got a medal with the rest of them. The Scarecrow's given a silver jar of complexion powder.
Yeah, it's just makeup. And
Wait, who did they give that to?
Scarecrow.
the Scarecrow. I think because he just has paint on his face. Maybe he can't wash himself.
Like, here you
He
go.
just gets so dirty and creepy every time.
Yeah, he's like crunchy when you touch him.
Dorothy's given a pretty coronet, like a little crown.
But more importantly, she is officially made a princess of Oz.
Wow.
Your girl Dorothy is an official citizen princess.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, does that
She
come with
has
citizenship?
Power. Yeah, she can do anything now.
Wow.
Yeah, they're in love.
TikTok receives 2 bracelets set with 8 rows of clear and sparkling emeralds. Then they sit down to this beautiful feast, and Dorothy and Bellina sit on either side of Ozma. And TikTok.
There's a whole table set up, and I'm like,
Yeah.
do we really need to know? It's very similar to the way they were like, this is how they rode home. This is the order in which they went there. This is how they're sitting at the table. And I'm
Yeah.
like, even at the beginning when it was like, Dorothy goes back into the palace, and Langwidere is sitting here. This person's sitting here, and I'm like,
Getting very filler.
yeah,
Yes,
I'm like,
stop with
why
the
are you
filler.
telling us every
This
single
isn't the
thing?
Silmarillion.
I imagine that Dorothy sits by Ozma, and if I didn't, it's really not going to come up. I swear, it's not going to come up.
I mean, I think that Bellina getting to sit to one side of the Queen of Oz
It's
is
sweet.
pretty sick, honestly.
Bellina already got a necklace and with sapphires on it.
And now she's like an elected official.
True.
Well, she has divine right of kings.
True.
But it's also worth noting that TikTok, Scarecrow, and the Tin Woodman are also at the table. But since they don't eat, there's just like baskets of pretty flowers put in front of them. So like, it's just decorative.
Well, as we all know, the Tin Woodman loves flowers.
Oh,
he
he
probably
does
took
love
one
flowers.
and put
Oh,
it
that's
in
right,
his
in his
chest
buttonhole.
place, in his buttonhole, and then it's actually Mombi again. I didn't
the
want to come back
cameo,
to
that's
this.
the
Oh my god!
cameo.
And she,
There we
like,
go.
She pops out like from being a flower, and she's like, "Just kidding."
Yeah, Glinda notices that there's a shadow moving.
The Cowardly Lion and the Hungry Tiger have these dishes that can hold a half a bushel at a time, and a bushel is just over 9 liquid gallons. So I guess their dishes hold over 4.5 liquid gallons at a time. I don't know why it's all liquid that they're getting to eat, but
That's quite large, though.
it's a lot. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, when I think of
Well,
like a gallon
hydrated.
of water and then like 4 of those side by side on their sides,
That's big.
that's a dish.
and something interesting is that the heroes are like being waited upon by the wealthiest and most important citizens of Oz.
It's I don't really understand this
So
part.
there's a hierarchy.
Well, it's like I didn't even put this in my notes because I didn't even want to get into it. But I do think that it's like a symbolism thing because they're like, oh, they came back and even the wealthiest people in the city are waiting on them. It's like it's almost like something biblical where it's like even the wealthiest people
We're
like
gonna
bow
wash your
down to
feet.
God and wash his feet. And it's like it's interesting. It makes sense. They're revering them. They are revering them.
The only person who's actually on the staff that's helping is Jalea Jam.
Yeah, another
Who-
little cameo.
The Scarecrow pinches her cheeks, and it seems that they know each other quite well.
Love that.
So then Ozma is like, where's the private? Because he's not at the table. And the private or the officers are like, oh, he's sweeping the barracks, but don't worry, he's gonna get dinner of bread and molasses. Yuck. Right? Like, what does that even mean?
I'm pissed.
Just like bread and honey, kind of.
I mean, molasses doesn't taste like honey.
No, it's like
kinda
more
gross.
bitter. Yeah.
Uh,
Ozma's like, hey, someone go get that guy.
yeah, she's like, go bring him in here. And
Yeah.
and she's like, what's your name? You know what his name is?
I don't know if I want to know. It might ruin it for me.
Oh, it will.
What?
It's his first and last name are both 4 letters. Blake?
Ombi Ambi. And she says, well then, Ombi
Ombi
Ambi. I promote you to be captain general of all the armies of my kingdom, and especially to be the commander of my bodyguard at the royal palace.
Yeah, which is a strong move. I'm like, yes, you saw him do what he was commanded to do
I mean, he
multiple
didn't
times.
kill.
Yeah, he would have though. If he could
He
have
did knock down more people than I thought
if
he would.
they didn't have armor on that was made of steel, they could have been dead.
True.
If he had done that to Dorothy, she'd be dead. Any of them. The tiger.
That's true.
And he has, he's brave.
But he is. He's brave. He's loyal. He like follows directions.
Yeah.
And when Ozma tells him something, he'll fucking do it.
Yeah.
But he's like,
So it's great.
But how am I going to hold like so many positions? That sounds really expensive. Like, how am I going to buy all the uniforms for all my different jobs you just gave me? And she's like, oh, you'll be supplied from the royal treasury. And he's like, oh, okay. I guess I'll join you for the feast now.
Yeah.
And everyone carries on.
That's
Yeah.
like getting your own office and fucking car and
Yeah.
shit. Like,
Yeah. All the other officers shake his hand, which I'm like, they should be demoted.
Yeah, I wanted
but
them
I
to
want
get
justice against them.
Even the fact they were having him
Yeah, scrub the
What's-
barracks or
yeah.
whatever, sweep the
Stuffing their
barracks.
faces with
Yeah.
turkey legs.
And they did nothing. They have
and
heart
not even
disease.
giving him.
They have heart disease, and they're there eating
Eating.
mashed potatoes with butter, turkey legs.
Yeah, the worst
Yeah.
fucking.
I'm
shit
sorry,
for
you're
them.
gonna have the boiled peas and
You-
carrots, sir.
Yeah, and you're gonna have to
Not
go.
even
You're gonna have to
boiled.
rest.
They're on a raw diet.
Suddenly, Jalea Jam shouts, "There's nothing left to eat! The hungry tiger has consumed everything!"
Incidentally, the tiger has somehow lost his appetite.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, Elfringbaum, leave us alone for 20
Yeah.
minutes.
I don't get it. I really don't. I literally wrote, "I don't know, ... I don't know."
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm so upset about Jack the skeleton being alive, or Jack the Pumpkinhead.
Stop
I'm
calling
sorry.
him
I'm sorry. It's so hard. I'm pissed that he's alive, and now we have the fucking
Hungry tiger.
hungry tiger.
I mean,
kept
I'd
on wanting
rather-
to say sawhorse. That wasn't right. But the
It's
hungry
like, so we're not rid of anyone
No.
who was annoying.
The worst people are here.
The worst people are here, and they're doing everything.
And unfortunately, that little womp womp with the hungry tiger is the end of that chapter.
Yeah, and that really somehow is the end of chapter 20, The Emerald City. And Blake, what would you call that?
Feast mode activated.
All right, and Blake, what would you call that?
Feast mode activated. I put a colon and everything.
He's sticking with it.
Okay. Chapter 21, Dorothy's Magic Belt.
So at this point, Dorothy has been Ozma's guest in Oz for several happy weeks.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, weeks, which I'm like, the first time we've ever had any amount of time quantified in Oz.
That's true. We're always guessing.
That is true.
And I wonder, well, she was in Ev for like a week, basically. So she's been in the Emerald City for 3 times as long as she was in Ev.
Yeah. And one day she's hanging out with Ozma in her private room, and she notices a picture hanging on the wall. And the image in it like keeps changing. Like, it's a meadow, then it's a forest, it's a lake, it's a village. Like, it's just always changing.
And Dorothy's like, what the fuck is that? And Ozma explains, oh, that's like a magic picture. Like, it shows me like whatever I want it to, or whoever I want it to. It's magic. It's just a great little piece of magic.
Yeah, Dorothy's like, can I borrow that for a second? And Ozma's like, yeah. And Dorothy wishes that she can see the old Kansas farm and Aunt Em.
And she does. And all seems fine. There are workmen who are tending the farm. Aunt Em is just washing dishes and looking pretty contented. And on the porch, sitting in the sun, is Toto.
Just taking a nap.
Yeah,
Toto!
her little pet dog.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
he's just
God
sitting
he
in the sun
wasn't on that
sleeping.
boat.
Oh, I
I
know. He would
know.
not have liked that.
No.
It would have been nice having him here, dude. He wouldn't have put
Without
up with those
Belina, though,
gnomes.
well, Belina could have been there with Toto. But
Belina was a nice buffer.
yes.
Yeah, Belina's awesome. I'd rather have Belina than Toto because she
Same.
talks.
Yeah.
But so then Dorothy's like, okay, everything seems good here. I'd like to see Uncle Henry. So the picture shifts to Sydney, Australia, where Henry's in an easy chair smoking his pipe, and he looks very sad and lonely, and his hair is even more white than before, and his hands and face are thin and wasted.
He
so
looks
like,
bad.
maybe he should consider quitting smoking.
Literally, I was like, he's smoking a pipe. Oh, and he's sick. But Dorothy's like, oh my God, he's sick because I'm gone.
It's all because of me.
Like, I have to go back to help him. And Ozma's like, how the fuck are you going to get back there, man? Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck are you going to do?
Dorothy's like, I don't know, but Glinda the Good definitely will. Like, let's go ask her. So they harness up the sawhorse and they ride off to see Glinda the Good, just the two of them.
And guess what? No drama all the way. Nothing. They just get
Just
there.
ride there
They're
and
good
it flashes
pair.
forward.
It makes me think, like, okay, they come from the Munchkin land. They don't have to deal with a ravine. There's a ferry across the river. Like,
Yeah,
all of a sudden, all the roads are repaired.
Cordelia's or corn.
Cordelia?
The bear tiger.
Kalidas.
Kalida.
Yes, no Kalidas. But yes, it's essentially, it's like all of a sudden, you know, the infrastructure in the last book, it's like Tip walked straight to the Emerald City. No problem. There was a ferry, there was a road, it was fine. And I'm like, okay, now all of a sudden, now that Ozma is princess, all the roads are fine again. Like, she's really supporting infrastructure, which not only creates jobs, but also eases the way for everyone in the country.
And
For
maybe
travel.
like part of, because you know, like she's the queen who's the boss of all the other kings and rulers, so like maybe the Cowardly Lion's job is to make sure all the wild animals stay in their dominion and don't come fuck with the people.
Keep it
Maybe,
separate.
but the Cowardly Lion learned Ozma was princess, and then he immediately went to the Emerald City and then left to go to Ev.
But maybe.
Well, he's allowed to.
I see.
But maybe there's like security, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, some sort of treaty.
It seems very safe though. They're done. Like they
Yeah.
go there,
And they
that's
get
it.
there, and Glinda receives them, and Dorothy explains the situation, and she's like, so here's the thing. I do have this magic belt. Couldn't I use that to get home?
Yes, you can, says
Okay.
Glinda.
Okay, and Dorothy's like, okay, that's awesome. And then, if I ever wanted to come back to Oz, I could use the belt to bring me back.
No, says Glinda.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Glinda's like, you know, the magic only works if you're in a fairy country. So, like, just the same way that when you use the slippers to go back to Oz, or to go back to Kansas last year, the slippers fell off your feet midway and they were lost forever. So if you try and use the belt to go back,
You're gonna lose
gonna
it.
lose the belt on the way because you can't use it.
In other words, can you quit coming here and taking our most precious magical artifacts just to waste them, please?
Just to go
Right.
back home and then come back. Well, she's like a citizen here.
Well,
So,
He's gonna die anyway. Like
Dorothy's got a pretty decent idea here, though.
Okay.
she decides, okay, she's going to give Ozma the belt, and then Ozma can send her back to Kansas, and any time that Dorothy wants to visit, Ozma can just transport her back using the
She
belt,
just needs to check on her every once in a while
and we'll
Yeah.
get there.
with that
Yeah.
painting.
So they
oh my
get
God,
good
Hannah,
work,
you're a
dude.
literal genius.
they get back to the Emerald City, and they
I
decide
think it's that little
every.
jointy joint I smoked.
They get back to the Emerald City, and they decide that every Saturday morning, Ozma's gonna look at Dorothy in her magic picture.
FaceTime.
And if Dorothy makes the specific hand signal, it's a thumbs up. Then Ozma will return her to Oz, and bring her back using the Gnome King's belt.
Yeah,
So-
so it's easy.
Yeah, it's great.
It's barely a goodbye. She's just like, oh, I'm glad to see you all, and it was great. I'll be back. When
Yeah.
I wave my handkerchief, send me away, Ozma.
And TikTok does
Damn.
want to come to Australia
Oh,
with
yeah.
Dorothy, but she's like, first of all, like, I don't know if you would work outside of a fairyland, and also, like, I'm not going to try to explain you to everybody, so just stay with Ozma. I'll be back, bud.
Yeah, that's the easiest.
Oh, and
But-
Bellina. She's like, oh, Bellina, like, do you want to come back? And Bellina's like, fuck that.
She's like, are
I'm
you
staying
kidding me?
She's
here."
powerful there.
She's like, the bugs here are delicious. Like, I can fucking talk. Like, she's just living her best life. She's like, Dorothy, you shouldn't go back.
She was like, I saw people die in Kansas.
Yeah.
yeah.
There's no cars here.
Literally, yeah. Belena's like, she's like, we should all stay here. Take everyone here.
Yeah, she tells Belina tells Dorothy that it is foolish that she would want to go back to that humdrum world that they both came from. But Dorothy's like, dude, Uncle Henry needs me. So everyone surrounds her, gives her kisses, gives her hugs, wishes her well.
And she stands on a giant emerald, waves her handkerchief, and then Ozma disappears her. And then we get a flash forward.
Flash forward a little bit.
Ooh.
And it starts like mid-sentence.
It is. So Dorothy is sitting on Uncle Henry's lap, and she says, "I didn't drown. I'm here to nurse you back to health."
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, I'm better already, my darling." So she really just gaslit that kooky old son of a bitch. She was like, "No, what are you talking about? I didn't fall off the ship. Here I am.
Yeah,
Take care of
what?
you." Oh my god, he must think she's a fucking demon ghost.
Yeah, like very much changeling. Yeah, it's
Would
insane.
be terrifying.
But it would be, yeah. All of a sudden, she shows up the same as she's ever been. and
He's
you're
been
just like,
in Australia for like 3 months.
Because
Yeah.
they, oh my god, and they hadn't been on the ship for like that long.
And he knows for a fact she wasn't there.
Yeah.
Are all of his
He can't
cousins
be that sick.
Are all of his cousins just playing along and pretending she was there the whole time? They're like,
God.
yeah, Hen, that is definitely the real Dorothy who showed up with you.
it's strange, and that's how you end a novel, and also how you end chapter 21, Dorothy's Magic Belt. And Blake, what would you call that?
Glinda's in this one.
Cute.
Bless her.
We love that.
Thank you for listening to Oz Hour. Please join us next time for a very special bonus episode. That's right. As promised, we're going to be covering the 1939 feature film, and the following week we will continue our reading journey with Book 4, Dorothy and the Wizard in Oz. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow us on our Instagram and TikTok, Oz Hour Podcast, for the latest on everything Oz.
Oz Hour, created and hosted by Blake Stone and Wyatt Swangham. Co-hosted by Hannah Aguirre. Audio production by Charlie Johnson. Theme music written and performed by Rudy Klobus. Cover art by Valentin Lucas.
I do need to say, in my defense, Dorothy ate a hearty supper and was waited upon by the rich munchkin himself, whose name was Bach. Then she sat upon a settee and watched the people dance. When Bach saw her silver shoes, he said, "You must be a great sorceress."
Wow. We really skimmed over that in the first book.
Well, because nobody knew who Bach was. Hannah just knows a couple of songs from Wicked, and you don't know anything. What was I going to say?
You listened to
I
the
know more than
audiobook
Wyatt.
once.